In the late 1980s and all through the 1990s, one actress ruled the romantic comedy landscape in a way almost no one else ever has. Meg Ryan wasn't simply a movie star. She was a full-blown cultural event. With that bright, infectious smile and the effortless girl-next-door energy, she became the woman every man wanted to date and every woman wanted to be. Her bankability was unreal. At her peak, Meg Ryan could open a movie on her name alone. She was box office gold, and Hollywood knew it. But how does a girl from Fairfield, Connecticut, born Margaret Mary Emily Ann Hyra, become one of the most beloved actresses of an entire generation? And just as importantly, where did she go? Let's begin. Before she was America's sweetheart, she was Margaret Mary Emily Ann Hyra, a journalism student at New York University, trying to cover rent and keep the lights on. Born November 19, 1961, in Fairfield, Connecticut, Meg Ryan didn't grow up dreaming of Hollywood stardom. She dreamed of being a journalist. But while studying at NYU, she started picking up extra work in TV commercials to pay the bills. Burger King, AIM, toothpaste, little gigs that seemed harmless until they weren't, because that side hustle quietly rewrote the course of her life. Her first real screen appearance arrived in 1981 when she was only 20, playing Candice Bergen's daughter in Rich and Famous. It was small, it was quick, but it was a start. Around this time, she adopted the stage name Meg Ryan, using her grandmother's maiden name. Then came the break that actually put her on a national radar. She was cast as Betsy Stewart on the CBS soap opera As the World Turns. She stayed for 2 years, from 1982 to 1984, and her character's romantic storyline didn't just land. By all accounts, it boosted the show's ratings. America was beginning to notice this blonde, blue-eyed actress with that sparkling, effervescent presence. By 1984, Meg left the soap, moved to Los Angeles, and aimed for something bigger. Then 1986 happened, the year everything tilted. Meg Ryan landed a small but unforgettable role in Top Gun, playing Carol Bradshaw, the wife of Goose, Anthony Edwards' character. It wasn't a lead role, but people remembered her. They remembered the energy. They remembered the smile. As she later told Rolling Stone, that was the point when people really started recognizing her. Strangers would stop her and say, "You're Goose's wife." That's when she knew the ground was shifting under her feet. Later that year, she appeared in Armed and Dangerous alongside John Candy and Eugene Levy. On paper, that cast should have been a slam dunk. In reality, the film was a total miss, critically panned, sitting at just 9% on Rotten Tomatoes and quickly fading at the box office. But Meg kept moving. In 1987, she starred in Promised Land, which earned her a first Independent Spirit Award nomination. And then came Inner Space in 1987, and this is the moment where something clicked. Even as a teenager watching it, you could see the spark between her and Dennis Quaid. That's part of the magic of movies. Sometimes you can literally watch two people fall for each other while they're doing their jobs. She was funny, warm, bright, and none of it felt forced. She didn't push, she didn't strain. It was effortless, and Hollywood spotted it immediately. All of a sudden, she wasn't just Goose's wife. She was the girl everyone wanted in their movie. Inner Space didn't make her a superstar overnight, but it made the industry pay attention. It showed audiences what she could actually do. The charm, the timing, the grounded vulnerability that would soon define an entire era of on-screen romance. This was Meg Ryan right before the explosion, the exact moment before she caught fire. In 1988, she reunited with Dennis Quaid in the noir thriller remake DOA. By then, their off-screen romance was public, and audiences loved seeing the real-life couple share the screen. Also in '88, she appeared in the Presidio opposite Sean Connery and Mark Harmon, a clear signal that Hollywood was now comfortable placing her beside heavyweight leading men. And then came the film that didn't just do well, it became a defining cultural landmark. Directed by Rob Reiner and written by Nora Ephron, it asked one deceptively simple question: can men and women really be friends? Meg Ryan's portrayal of Sally Albright opposite Billy Crystal's Harry was pitch perfect. Quirky, smart, vulnerable, annoying, genuine, human. And then there was that moment, the fake orgasm scene at Katz's Delicatessen. The line, "I'll have what she's having," instantly immortal, one of the most iconic scenes in film history. The movie grossed over $92 million, and Ryan earned Golden Globe and BAFTA nominations. Hollywood didn't just have a star, it had a new romantic comedy queen. Then 1990 brought Joe versus the Volcano, her first pairing with Tom Hanks. The movie itself was quirky and offbeat, and Ryan played 3 different roles, Angelica and Patricia. It was a box office disappointment, but the chemistry between Ryan and Hanks? Electric. You could feel it. In 1991, she took a sharp turn with Oliver Stone's The Doors, playing Pamela Corson, Jim Morrison's girlfriend. It showed range. It proved she could do drama and darkness. And on Valentine's Day in '91, she married Dennis Quaid. For a while, they were Hollywood's golden couple. The 1990s belonged to Meg Ryan. In 1992, she and Quaid welcomed their son, Jack. And then, just 3 months later, she was back on set filming what would become one of her biggest hits. Sleepless in Seattle arrived in 1993, reuniting her with Tom Hanks and director Nora Ephron. The film was pure movie magic, a modern fairy tale about two people meant for each other who don't even meet until the final scene. It made $227 million worldwide and earned Ryan another Golden Globe nomination. She and Hanks were officially the new Tracy and Hepburn. But Meg was also fighting typecasting. In 1994, she took on When a Man Loves a Woman, playing an alcoholic wife and mother struggling with addiction. It was raw, unglamorous, and critics praised the risk. That same year, she returned to lighter territory with IQ, where she played Albert Einstein's niece. In 1995, French Kiss arrived opposite Kevin Kline, another rom-com hit that kept her reign going. In 1996, she swung dramatic again with Courage Under Fire, a military drama alongside Denzel Washington. She lost weight, endured grueling training, and delivered a performance that proved she was more than the bubbly love interest archetype. She could carry weight, real weight. Then in 1997, she voiced the lost Russian princess in the animated Anastasia, introducing her charm to an entirely new generation of kids. And then 1998, a one-two punch. City of Angels opposite Nicolas Cage, and You've Got Mail, the third and final collaboration with Tom Hanks and Nora Ephron. You've Got Mail grossed $250 million worldwide. By the end of the decade, Meg Ryan was earning $10 to $15 million per film. She was one of the highest-paid actresses in Hollywood. She could open a movie on her name alone. She wasn't just in romantic comedies. She was the romantic comedy. But behind the perfect image, the cracks were forming. In 2000, Meg Ryan traveled to Ecuador to film Proof of Life opposite Russell Crowe. What happened around that production changed her public life forever. Reports of an affair between Ryan and Crowe exploded into tabloid wildfire. America's sweetheart, caught in an extramarital scandal. Overnight, the carefully constructed image of the lovable girl next door shattered. Dennis Quaid filed for divorce in 2000. The public largely took his side. Ryan was painted as a homewrecker, a cheater, a betrayal of the very values her rom-com characters seemed to represent. The relationship with Crowe was intense but brief, ending in 2001. Ryan later said the affair wasn't the true cause of the marriage ending, that things had been troubled for years, but the public didn't care. The narrative was already set. The headline had already won. As Carrie Fisher reportedly told her, when you betray your archetype, by choices, by scandal, by stepping outside the box, people don't forgive it easily. And Hollywood can be even colder than the audience. The industry that once bent over backward to work with her suddenly felt distant. The rom-com queen had fallen from grace, and the machine is famously unforgiving. Meg tried to keep going. Kate and Leopold in 2001 was a moderate success, but the weather had changed. Then came a bold and controversial career move. In 2003, she starred in The Cut, a dark, sexually explicit thriller directed by Jane Campion. Ryan appeared nude for the first time in her career in graphic love scenes. It was the polar opposite of Sally Albright. Audiences who wanted the wholesome Meg Ryan were shocked. Critics were divided. The film bombed, grossing only $23 million. During a promotional appearance on Parkinson, Ryan seemed visibly irritated by repeated questions about filming nude, one-word answers, awkward energy, and a moment that quickly became part of the public's story around her. It didn't help, and the media latched onto something else too. Her appearance was changing. Meg Ryan has never publicly confirmed cosmetic procedures, but speculation grew louder as observers claimed her face looked significantly altered compared to the natural beauty that made her famous. When she appeared at the 2016 Tony Awards, the reaction was immediate and harsh, and the conversation spiraled again. Hollywood is brutal about aging, and somehow it's equally brutal about visible attempts to resist aging. Whether fair or not, casting directors began seeing a face they didn't recognize. The girl next door warmth, her trademark, seemed to some changed or frozen, and that perception made her even harder to cast. Roles didn't just slow down, they dried up. Against the Ropes in 2004 flopped. By the mid-2000s, the actress who once commanded 8-figure paychecks was struggling to find her place. In 2006, Ryan adopted a daughter from China, Daisy True Ryan. She embraced single motherhood, stepping back and reassessing, choosing family over the machine. And there was another challenge that tabloids didn't exactly know how to package: her physical health. Meg Ryan has dealt with arthritis, a degenerative condition affecting her hips, and chronic pain that has sometimes caused a noticeable limp. Hip problems aren't tabloid candy, but they were part of her reality. Another layer of difficulty during a period that was already rough. She continued working sporadically. The Women in 2008, Serious Moonlight in 2009, plus guest spots on Curb Your Enthusiasm and Lisa Kudrow's Web Therapy. But by this point, it didn't feel like she was chasing the spotlight anymore. Meg Ryan had largely retreated from Los Angeles to New York, focusing on raising Jack and Daisy away from the Hollywood noise. She dated musician John Mellencamp on and off from 2010 to 2019, even getting engaged in 2018, though that relationship ultimately ended too. In 2015, Ryan made her directorial debut with Ithaca, a World War II drama she also starred in. Reviews were mixed and distribution was limited, but it represented something important. Meg Ryan taking control of her own narrative, moving behind the camera, where the industry couldn't reduce her to headlines and close-ups. For years, people asked the same question: would she ever really come back? In 2023, she answered with What Happens Later, a romantic comedy she directed, produced, and starred in opposite David Duchovny. It was intimate, mature, and it proved she still had that indefinable charm, just tempered now by wisdom, life experience, and authenticity. She's spoken openly about Hollywood's ageism and the impossible expectations placed on actresses. And when it comes to the cosmetic surgery speculation, she's brushed it aside with a simple truth: I can't pay attention to it. I just can't. It's just not worth it. Now in her early 60s, Ryan has reportedly moved to Montecito, California, where sources say she's found peace and a new lease on life. A quieter, more grounded rhythm, healthy friends, wellness, creativity. She has continued to direct and has expressed interest in developing projects that tell stories Hollywood typically ignores. She isn't married, and she's been candid that dating remains just as ridiculous as ever. Meanwhile, her son Jack Quaid has become a successful actor in his own right, starring in The Boys and appearing in films like Oppenheimer and Scream, carrying the family legacy forward. When you look back at that journey, from journalism student filming toothpaste commercials to one of the highest-paid actresses alive, Meg Ryan's story is more compelling than most scripts Hollywood could write. Yes, the Russell Crowe affair was the catalyst that unraveled her career, but the deeper issue was what came after. Here was a woman with natural beauty, someone who likely would have aged gracefully. You could see it in her bone structure and her features. There was a timeless quality there. But somewhere along the way, she changed her face to the point that audiences no longer saw Meg Ryan on screen. They saw someone else. Now look, everyone who watches this channel knows I don't usually fixate on these things, but I do think it's an important part of how her career faltered. This isn't about mocking her. It's about the impossible pressure to freeze yourself in time. The industry is built on beauty and allure. Yes, that pressure lands hardest on women, but it's not exclusive to women. Look at Mickey Rourke, a strikingly handsome leading man in the 80s who arguably self-sabotaged through excessive cosmetic procedures until he became almost unrecognizable. The pressure exists on both sides. Now compare that to Tom Hanks, her co-star in those iconic films. He aged naturally. He filled out. He changed, but he embraced it. And yes, we understand Hollywood holds men and women to very different standards. We get it. But we also know there are plenty of actresses who simply aged into themselves and remained working, respected, and beloved. Sometimes it really does come down to accepting the inevitable, how we feel about ourselves, how we move through time. Because when you alter yourself so drastically that the softness, the warmth, the essence that made audiences fall in love with you is gone, people disconnect. They stop associating you with the characters they cherished. Meg Ryan was bankable beyond measure in the 80s and 90s. She defined a genre. But the choices she made, the scandal, the public backlash, the attempt to hold on to something that was naturally slipping away, cost her more than any single headline ever could. And that's the real lesson here. It isn't only about Hollywood's cruelty. It's about acceptance, about understanding that aging is inevitable, and fighting it too hard can cost you the very thing that made you special in the first place. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy this kind of retrospective content, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe. It genuinely makes a huge difference to the channel. And as ever, I really do look forward to seeing you all in the next one.